Welcome to another episode of Hot Media with Bob Mann. Every week on this podcast, we discuss the hottest content and the hottest controversies in the media, mainly mass media. And we look at journalism and we also look at entertainment. And obviously, because of what's happening in the world, we've devoted a great deal of time during the course of the past few weeks to talking strictly about journalism. We had a show last week about the importance of courageous reporting, letting people know what is going on around the world, especially in Ukraine, and what happens when you have a dictator such as Vladimir Putin completely repressing free press in his country. But today we switch gears and we talk about movies, and we will be talking about some things involving the Oscars, but not the slap. We are the slap-free podcast here. And joining us, those of you who are watching the video version on YouTube can see my guests right now. At the bottom of your screen is someone who's been here before, Chris Mann Nelson. Chris is the host and creator of the Movie Quiz, which is a live weekly video quiz. You can watch it or you can participate in the game. And one of the people who participates and wins very often in the game is my other guest, who is up there on the top of screen right in the corner, Ryan Rolandelli, who is a finishing editor at a New York City production house. And what we're talking about today, not the gossipy aspects of the Oscars or of the movie industry, but about the medium itself. You know, movies and the movie industry, people who lead it, people who work in it, have been saying since 1946 that television is killing the movies. But now, more than ever, this merger or some sort of overshadowing by one medium over the other really seems to be happening. And there's a quote from Steven Spielberg talking about the fact that they're used to it. But I'll just put this just in a partial quote here to give us an idea of what we're talking about. He says that the difference today between what's been going on since 1946 and today is that a lot of studios, movie studios, would rather just made, and these are using his words, branded, tentpole, guaranteed box office hits from their inventory, branded successful movies than take chances on smaller films. And those smaller films the studios used to make routinely are now going to Amazon and Hulu and Netflix. So when it comes to whether it's movies or it's television, I want to ask you guys to start. Does it really matter? Who cares?
I think the biggest thing when watching like new content is the story, mostly the writing. If the story is good, it's going to engage you. And you're either going to watch the next episode or you're going to sit through what a lot of movies are now, 2.5 to 3 hours. I feel like people nowadays, unfortunately, may rather sit on their couch because they can take in a lot of media, a lot of information right from their couch. They don't have to go to the theaters. And for someone like me, still going to theaters somewhat often, as safe as it can be, I like to find the difference between the big screen, the small screen, and the stories that they can tell.
Chris, one of the things that struck me is in the Spielberg quote, and, you know, he's making some very good points, but is the idea that the big movie studios don't want to make the smaller, more important, more intellectual, more artistic films. Is it a bad thing then that the television streamers are coming in on it? I mean, it seems as if really good, thoughtful movies might go away completely if the streamers weren't there.
Yeah, no, it's certainly been like the low to mid-budget movies have they have been pushed off to streaming because it's been going this way for a long time, and then I think the pandemic kind of just put a nail in the coffin of the studios only want to cost a lot of money to put a movie in a theater, and you see these insane budget breakdowns of like movies that don't technically turn a profit until they've made like 4 times their budget and all this stuff because of marketing costs and international distribution, which shouldn't cost as much now since it's digital, but you don't have to like ship film canisters across the globe anymore. But yeah, they only do want to bet on sure things. They only want to but it's become this. It's the balance has just become completely broken in terms of what's in a theater and what's on streaming. And in some ways it's good in the sense that like streaming gives a home and a platform to micro budget movies, to mid-level movies, but at the same time more eyes would get on like a mid-budget movie if it was in a theater, and that's just not happening anymore because they're only betting on Spider-Man and known properties and recycling the same like 20 characters over and over for theaters.
I remember as a kid in the 1960s and being television obsessed, like the movies and radio too, but really television obsessed, there came the made-for-TV movie. And they've always kind of been seen as a little bit lowbrow, certainly less than in terms of their comparison to the theatrical release. But a movie like Coda, which is so great, Amazon Prime, a movie like The Power of the Dog, which is so great, and it is a Netflix production. Are these really just nothing more, and I would like each of you to address this, than made-for-TV movies?
I think we need to define what even is a made-for-TV movie. It's probably a definition that I just don't know off the top of my head. But just because I watch it on my television doesn't mean it was made for TV. I watched Power of the Dog at home. I watched Coda at home. I watched The Irishman a couple years ago at home. Doesn't mean it was made for TV. I think a lot of things nowadays with COVID, we're only going to see more of it. It's really surprising that I watched the Best Director winner this year, Jane Campion. I watched her new film on Netflix. I guess I had a small chance to see it in theaters and I didn't. But it's surprising that these kinds of movies are going to streaming.
And Chris, what do you think?
I think they're definitely not made for TV in the sense that you're saying it. And insofar as a lot of them are, these movies are like, I know that like movies, there's two different ways as far as I understand it that these movies end up on streaming. One is that the streamer is actually ponying up the money, producing it and getting it made. And the other is that the streamer is, which I think is what happened with Apple. I think Apple just bought the distribution rights to Coda. So these are
Sundance, I think, yeah.
The independent movies that are, but I think Netflix made Power of the Dog, if I'm not mistaken. Ryan, you might know better than I would on that.
Yeah, I think that was Netflix off the bat. Yeah, or someone like The Irishman, they ran into money issues where they.
So there's like two different ways, but neither of them are. They're going for prestige either way, because Netflix is commissioning and bankrolling and distributing Power of the Dog in order to be a legitimate powerhouse Oscar contender, and Apple is buying Coda as, I don't think anybody probably foresaw it going all the way to Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor and Best Adapted Screenplay necessarily, but they're buying that movie from Sundance or wherever they acquired it with the goal of legitimizing Apple as a streaming service. It's not like one of these cheesy ABC Family made for TV movies of the late 90s, like a Brady Bunch movie or something like that. The medium is nebulous, and these movies did show in theaters. They wouldn't be able to be nominated for Best Picture otherwise. They have these brief windows, but they're trying to legitimize themselves with it.
When the Oscars have been criticized, which is constantly, the criticism often is that they're not in touch with the people. Well, the People's Choice Awards exist for that reason, but on this particular 2022 iteration of the Oscar show, which of course is known for something else and is so famous, for the obvious, but that's not what we're talking about here. They did venture into the idea of some sort of people's choice, where they said, we asked people what their 5 favorite movies were. And to tell you the truth, the thing with the zombie jumping on the helicopter,
Okay.
I don't even know what the hell that thing was, much less that it was number one.
It was this what that was, because if you looked at those two, I didn't even realize till after that that both of those segments were like Twitter democratized, because what those were was because the other was like stand up and cheer moments, and the other number one stand up and cheer moment was Flash enters the Speed Force, which everyone was like, what is that? And those were both Zack Snyder movies. And so Zack Snyder, I'm not sure if it was just one person might have created bots to spam it, or if the Zack Snyder fan base as a whole spammed those, but they just glutted the voting with the 2 Zack Snyder movies that came out last year, which were Army of the Dead and the revamped Justice League. So that's what happens
if you really the public opinion.
If you fully democratize the awards process, that kind of crap will happen. But let's
just say it was a legit and it wasn't, manipulated by bots. Would it be fair to say, or is it elitist to say, that the general public is not going to have a desire for, a liking for, an art house picture, a picture like Power of the Dog, or a picture, even though it had many funny moments like Coda? They're just not going to care. They're not going to like it. And we're almost living in parallel universes already between what is considered popular and what is considered good.
Yeah, I think without the trolling that was happening during the Oscars, I think you would find that 9 times out of 10 people would rather go see Spider-Man No Way Home than Power of the Dog.
Yeah,
and you're not going to find a bigger Marvel fan than me. But that's just like what people want to see nowadays.
Yeah,
Chris,
and I mean, I've complained. Ryan's heard me complain about this specifically, which is that they expanded the field of Best Picture nominees to upwards of 10. It's not automatically 10 every year. I don't think it can be like 7 to 10, but they expanded it in 2010 for the 2009 year in order to allow in more, like, you knew they wouldn't win, but they let like movies like Avatar and District 9, and then in the following years Inception and Up, and like more broadly appealing movies that was the reason they expanded to 10. And then within a couple of years, they just started filling those nomination slots up with twice as many art house Academy pats itself on the back for being so smart kind of choices for Best Picture nominees. So they've kind of lost the plot in terms of I mean, the closest to like a pop movie that got a nomination this year was Dune. Like, and that was still like a very dense Denis Villeneuve oil painting of a movie. But by all rights, the Spider-Man No Way Home, it brought people back to the movie theaters, like in a way that no one had been in almost 2 years. And it shouldn't win Best Picture, but it should be mentioned, if we're talking about just movies as an art form. You gotta take into account what's popular, what's like the second most popular movie of all time, at least financially.
I don't want to get too deep in communication theory, but I just said not wanting to be elitist. But one of the things about Marshall McLuhan and hot media and cool media, and I didn't understand it for years until our friend Paul Levinson, who's on this show a lot, explained it to me. He's comparing it to jazz, and that hot media is something that overwhelms you, like hot jazz, and cool jazz can kind of be on in the background. And if Paul's listening, I know I don't have this 100% right. With 85-inch screens in your home, with surround sound, subwoofers, or all of the rest, are we at a point where television and movies come closer even in their physical nature? I realize it's not, what is it, a 50-foot screen in most movie theaters, the average multiplex. 85 inches is not 50 feet, but is the fact that it's not on a small screen, a little tiny screen, not in black and white, not with a tinny speaker, does that change anything about the fact that they're two different media, but maybe that's not going to last for too long?
Ryan, do you have any?
I was gonna say, I personally, and I, as an elitist, I don't think I'm speaking for the majority. Certain films.
Oh, you're admitting you're elitist.
Certain films, other than the MCU, will get me in theaters. Seeing a film on actual film on 35 or, if possible, 70 millimeter is an experience for me, and it's worth the time and the money to go. Still, I saw Licorice Pizza this year in Chicago at 70 millimeter, and it was great. I mean, I love the film and I just love the look of it, and you cannot replicate that on TV. I think the common moviegoer will not see the difference or be interested in the difference as long as they could see it for free or cheaper and not leave their house.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side of that, for me is I've gone to the movies twice since the pandemic. That's it, and it's I saw No Time to Die and I saw The Batman, and I love movies. Obviously, I write movie questions and host a movie show every week, but it's still, when I'm at home, even if it's something I want to watch, I've been so fundamentally broken by the 21st century that I still have to fight to not take out my phone and look up everybody who's in every scene, and just get distracted. Whereas when I went to the theater, the fact that I've spent money on it, the fact that I'm in a social communal setting, I think it, and that it is, no matter how big your screen is, you're never going to get it as big as the auditorium and even a moderately sized multiplex. It just commands your attention in a way that that I don't think that watching it at home would. And oddly enough, in a way, somebody else was saying this. I think it was one of my guests recently. They were saying that the small movies, like Coda or Power of the Dog. I mean, Power of the Dog has scope, but you know what I mean. I'm like not three Peter Parkers yelling at you. Those are the ones to see on the big screen. Oddly enough, because even though those are the ones that are streaming, those are the ones you should try to seek out on the big screen, because they're smaller character moments and they're more deliberate, and you want them to wash over you more. Whereas a loud Batman Marvel movie or Fast and the Furious, whatever, it's that you can watch on a 50-inch screen with a good speaker system, and you'll get that. That'll keep your attention at home better. So it's almost inverted.
I really enjoyed the perspective. I knew you would be the guys to go to put this in terms that make a lot of sense. Of course, some of this may just be the pandemic. A lot of this may come and go as more of us head back to the movie theaters. If you live, as we do, in the New York City metropolitan area, there are a lot of art house theaters. Montclair, New Jersey has them. I don't know how many survived COVID, but that may just be where a lot of these films end up, and this was simply because no one wanted to leave the house. But before we leave, Ryan, can you explain to us what a finishing editor is, since we introduced you by that job title?
Sure. My job consists of putting together all of the pieces of all the people that work on a film or a television show, putting the titles together, smaller VFX that I'll do on my own, or larger green screen stuff, or really VFX plates will be done out of house and they get sent to me, all putting it together in the timeline and delivering it to the colorist so we can put the finishing color on everything, the final color and look that you see on your TV and movies, because it's definitely not shot like that. Putting all the pieces together from all the other post houses that are involved in one show, and sending it off to have a DCP created to what you see in the theaters.
Wow. It's really is it's a fascinating business, and there's so much that goes into it. And Chris, people have seen you here before, but the movie quiz currently on Wednesday nights might be moving at some point. But tell us about the game and how people can watch it or play it.
Well, it's a weekly game. We play in season chunks of 7 to 10 weeks, and it's a completely interactive game show, talk show hybrid where guests and characters join me, and we play 5-6 rounds of movie trivia and puzzles in real time, entering it into software all at once together. And we also do live shows sometimes, and we'll be coming back with a Star Wars focused game in person on May the 4th at Caveat Theater in Manhattan. And all that info you can get at themoviequiz.com.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I wanted to talk about this week, this particular subject, especially when Spielberg was quoted about it. And I thank you for explaining the whole thing. It's been fun having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
And that's it for this episode of Hot Media with Bob Mann. We want to point out to you that this is primarily an audio podcast, but we are on video on YouTube. We ask you to listen and watch and subscribe. Above all, subscribe, please. And you can find out a lot about this particular podcast by following me on Twitter. There it is for those of you watching video, my handle at Bob Mann Media. And in addition to that, you can just go to the website, which is www.bobmanhotmedia.com. And there you can find out everything about the show, including hearing archives of, what we have done over the past, 2.5 years that we've been here. For those of you who are new to us, we talk strictly about media, the hottest controversies, the hottest content in mass media, both journalism and entertainment. So we ask you to join us on a regular basis right here every week on Hot Media. Thank you for joining us.